Where's the loser from your school now? He has an Emmy. He was made fun of by everyone, including me, for being incredibly passionate about photography and film and having the humongous jewels to take it to continue putting his stuff out there. He's far and away the most successful person from my class and gets to do what he loves every day. I'm super happy for him. Story 2. It's kind of sad that I can just refer to their Wikipedia pages. Michael Fay. In 1994, a court in Singapore sentenced an American teenager, Michael Fay, to be caned for violating the Vandalism Act. This caused a temporary strain in relations between Singapore and the United States. Several months after returning to the United States, Fay suffered burns after a butane incident. He was subsequently admitted to the Hazelden Rehabilitation Program for butane misuse. He claimed that butane made him forget what happened in Singapore. In 1996, he was cited in Florida for a number of violations, including careless driving, reckless driving, not reporting a crash, and having an open bottle of alcohol in a car. Later, in 1998, still in Florida, Fay was arrested for possessions of substances, charges to which he confessed but was acquitted because of technical errors in his arrest. Jeremy Strohmeyer, born October 11, 1978, is an American convicted criminal serving 4 consecutive life terms for mistreatment of Iverson. October 20, 1989 to May 25, 1997, a prima donna resort and casino in Primm, Nevada on May 25, 1997. The case drew national attention by focusing on the safety of children casinos and on the revelation that Strohmeyer's friend, David Cash Jr., said he saw the crime in progress but did not stop it. Story 3. Nobody knows. We tried contacting him for a reunion and it was impossible to find him. I really don't want to call him a loser, though. He was probably suffering from undiagnosed or badly treated ADHD or anxiety or something. This was 20 years ago, and seeing a psychiatrist was shameful and something to be hidden. He was friendly. Never had a problem with anyone. He just wasn't capable of going through a badly structured school setting. It's really sad. Some people are naturally good at school, and some just aren't, even though there's nothing wrong with them fundamentally as human beings. But the system is set up so that success in school determines a large part of your life in the future, and that's pretty unfair, honestly. Couldn't have said it better myself. Story 4. It's me. Everyone else from my class went on to get a professional career and family. Meanwhile, I got cancer. Had a stroke. My disability payments got wrongfully stopped, and I'm going through an appeal right now. So all my old school friends are living it up in nice houses with their families with hope for the future, while I'm starving, in danger of losing the roof over my head, sick and suffering side effects from my meds, all alone with nothing to look forward to. So yeah, I was considered a loser in school because I liked rock music while the other kids liked R&B and Boyzone. Now, I'm a loser in real life, as multiple people have delighted in telling me. I don't even join my old school Facebook page because I'm too embarrassed to let them see how my life has turned out. Story 5. She's a published author of multiple books and crushing it in the passionate romance genre. She used to let me read stuff she wrote in a deeply boring class we were required to take and shared a 2-person table in. It's the only thing that got me through. She was really talented. I'd have never said she was a loser, though. Just a very earnest girl in a larger body whose social development skills hadn't really kicked in yet. She was smart and sweet and gentle. I asked her to come sit with my friends at lunch a lot, but she'd never come over. Just ate alone every day, scribbling in notebooks. I'm really glad she found her path to happiness and success. Romance books are my thing, but I pre-order every one of her books as a show of support. You're a very good friend. Story 6. Passed away. I learned it quite recently. I couldn't repress some feeling of joy. It was a loser, but a violent loser. Like, he couldn't stand people who take studies seriously and succeed. He quit school quite early, but is still roaming around the school. He had a bike and was intimidating all kids going home, including me, by a cruel technique. He'd force us to climb on his bike so he could take us home, but it was like a sorrowful journey. We'd cross roads at full speed without looking for any car. How anyone hasn't been ended is beyond me. This guy gave me nightmares. Then one day, he disappeared. I grew up, had modest success in my education, and landed a good job. One day while I was waiting for the bus, he came to me. He recognized me. I didn't at first, but when he talked to me, I recognized him. I wasn't scared. We were already adults at this time. He looked poor and dirty. He genuinely thought we were friends when we were young. He told me that life was hard for him, that he was struggling. But as the discussion went on, I learned that he spent his life in bars, drinking and doing nothing of his life. He asked me for help. He needed money. To get rid of him, I gave him the equivalent of $1. Just enough for a coffee. I left disappointed, but somehow happy to have this bit of money. He was the kind of guy who was pure schmuck. There was nothing good about him. I knew that if I felt less confident, he would pester me or rob me of my money. I felt I wasn't scared. He passed away in his 40s, and I'm sure no one in this earth felt an atom of sadness. You sure do have a lot of hatred in your heart, don't you? Story 7. I was a loser in high school. Stinky clothes, wore plastic grocery bags on my feet under my shoes when it rained. Sometimes went to school barefoot. Pretty hungry a lot. Slept in a church youth room I had gotten a key for and would sneak in after hours. Some people were cruel to me, but I was pretty naive about it, so it didn't stick and I don't have any hard feelings about it. There were some really nice people too. I was in a band, but that failed after 9 or 10 years. The marriage failed after about 5 or 6 years. I pursued a dream of opening up my own music lessons and recording studio, but that failed too after about 8 years. Pretty spectacular failures too. Very humbling. Back to square one style, destitute, stealing food from the grocery store level failure. So these days, I've been doing okay. I've worked with special needs kids for the last 10 years. Got my Braille certificate, got a bachelor's degree in elementary education, and I'm working on my master's in ad tech right now. Literally doing what most people are doing in their 20s, 20 years too late. Better late than never, I guess. Well, that's better than most people I know, having achieved nothing in their life. Story 8. It was me. I was the loser of my high school who had hardly any friends and was overweight and constantly pestered. 8 years after graduation, I now live in a big city. I have a 3-bedroom apartment right in the middle that overlooks the entire city, a good job with good benefits, a good group of friends. There's plenty of time for my hobbies and passions. Lost a ton of weight and got myself in shape by toning out and gaining muscle, and now I'm constantly getting compliments on how great I look. And I have an active enough intimate life that I feel content. So he's doing pretty damn great. Story 9. I'm still firmly an underachiever who's now a courier for a grass company and has put on 50 to 60 pounds since joining said company in April. 28-year-old with absolutely no path to follow or forge. I'm a one-trick pony. I can gain significant weight and lose it fairly quickly. I'm decent at endurance sports. Running, cycling. My brain chemicals mess me up eventually and we have to start the cycle all over again. Mom's basement. Loner. Typical Redditor, I know, but sometimes the tiny voice in the back of my mind tells me we're absolutely better and meant for better, but I can never seem to figure it out. Oops. Too much information. Whatever. I'm in the mental gutter. That's where I'm at. Crap is so much different just 90 days ago. Lol. Story 10. Same place he was when we graduated. Living with his parents, having his mom take care of nearly everything. It was the younger of 2 kids, and when his older sibling passed away, his mom never really dealt with the loss in a healthy way and became way overprotective of her baby. I remember at age 12, he briefly joined my soccer club and trained with us for a few weeks. Just when it looked like he might be coming out of his shell a bit, he got a minor injury and his mom immediately pulled him from the team because she didn't want him playing such a violent and dangerous sport. And I'll repeat, this was a soccer team. Now he's in his mid-30s, working a go-nowhere job, but basically incapable of functioning as an adult. He can't cook because his mom prepares all his meals. He doesn't know how to do laundry or clean anything because his mom does all that. If he needs an appointment for the dentist or the barber, his mom books it for him. He even still lives in the same bedroom he grew up in as a kid. Story 11. Everyone is going to say that they were the loser, but I actually was. By the time junior year rolled around, I had no friends. I spent my lunch breaks walking around aimlessly or eating my lunch in a bathroom stall. I blended into the background, on purpose, unless someone decided I was an easy target to publicly mock or to make up school tormentors jokes. My clothes all had holes in them because we were poor and lived in a trailer. I had severe acne as well, and nothing over the counter worked. If I accidentally made eye contact with a girl, I would get laughed at and be on the receiving end of that look. I had terrible grades and failed 10th grade, so the other kids made fun of me for being stupid on top of my looks, etc. My teachers openly disliked me, especially the female ones. From what I can gather, pretty much everyone in my life back then just expected me to end myself. I'm now a mechanical engineer making far more than the household average for the area I live in. I own multiple sports cars and motorcycles. I've traveled overseas for recreation and I'm in extremely good physical condition. I've gotten cosmetic surgeries and turned girls down that approach. Things are far from ideal, but I feel like I've clawed up from a pretty precarious situation. The thing is, I still don't forgive anyone from back then. Yeah, it shows that you have a big ego now. Story 12. I was the loser. Had a terrible home life full of all kinds of cruelty that no one knew about. Years later, I went to years of therapy to resolve my traumas. I reported my mistreatments to the police, and now I'm a father to a very funny little girl, and I've been with my beautiful partner for years now. I'm on my 3rd home, and I do well at work. Working and pursuing my dream of being a professional writer, or working in film, or working in gaming, or being a software engineer. Life is really cool now. I feel like I'm a grown-up version of kid me instead of a walking trauma scab, and young me would be thrilled that I have a nice fiance and a lot of Star Wars and Marvel movies and TV shows. I turned my life around. Story 13. The one that most would consider a loser is probably me. I was a loner, listened to metal, played video games. You get the picture. Now I'm a doctor. Have an awesome wife, just bought our new apartment, and life's going pretty well, actually. The one that I myself considered our loser was the guy that pestered me. He was very self-conscious, which he masked by putting others down. Nowadays, he has a pretty nondescript position in his father's company after he was let go in the company of a friend of his father's. The only thing I would change is to go back and tell my younger self that your social status in school doesn't matter. Compare this guy to the guy in Story 11, and you can really tell who the insecure one is. Story 14. I dropped out of high school in the ninth grade and later returned to repeat the year. Unfortunately, I vandalized the school and was expelled from the district, resulting in community service and youth probation. Everyone in the school hated me, and I was known as the bad kid because you destroyed the HVAC system for 6 months. No air conditioning from January until April at least. $80,000 in damage. For my community service, I worked on various IT projects for a community youth organization in a small town. This experience allowed me to advance my career through various companies, eventually securing a job in IT at a different school district. I've come full circle. Story 15. Well, it was really a group of us. Got a nickname because of the stupidest one of the group and my best friend at the time. That guy last I saw is still living with his mom on her couch, just playing video games, showering maybe once a month. Not an exaggeration. Not sure about the one who vanished mid-high school. One moved to Alabama, and I'll leave it there for her. For the last two, my now best friend is happily in a healthy relationship with his boyfriend who both work in HVAC. They are so adorable together. And for my friend, he's come a long way from being an introvert to the loudest one in the room. Love him so much. And for me, I'm now the marketing sales supervisor at a nice pottery shop, engaged to the love of my life, and met all the way back in middle. The happiest I've been and the healthiest weight I've ever been. Weighed 230 to 240 pounds in high school, and now I weigh 145 pounds. Much love to y'all. Another humble one. Story 16. Well, if it was me, then I would say I'm doing my best. I rent a house, but it's in a desirable neighborhood. I moved out of the sticks and into a mid-sized city. I stayed off substances and had 2 degrees. I still get to see my stepkids after their mom, and I split amicably. I'm employed, starting to have a social life again. Hot brown women tell me I have gorgeous eyes. I was likely a loser in the sense of a successful nerd voted most likely to succeed, but a grand total of 0 friends. The users didn't like me because I was a good student, even if I was friendly with them and hated the same stuff. The smart but preppy kids didn't like me because I was poor but smarter than them. The weird kids found me weird, but not the weird way they were. For example, I wasn't a weird kid in a group like goths who I was friendly with. I was on the baseball team, but not a great player, so the athletes tolerated me, but I wasn't in. The rule breakers respected that I also broke rules, but hated that my own track for college status set me apart. Socially, I think I was the loser, even if I was only 1 out of 7 to go to 4-year college in my otherwise failing school. It was a small graduating class, but 7 out of 89 is still pretty small. Story 17. She lives in a no-name town in Virginia. Been arrested more times than most of fingers and toes. She lost the main custody of her kid. Father is from VA, so rich daddy moved her closer to the kid. The heartbreaking thing is, she has a master's in international business. She's very intelligent, but she has a drinking problem. I'm convinced she has an untreated mental health condition. She was recently arrested for possession and/or intent to sell in VA. She can't help herself. Daddy always bails her out, takes care of all the legal crap. After many years of trying to help her, we're no longer close friends, but I still feel for her and always hope she gets on a better path. Story 18. I found out last month he's in jail and has transitioned to being a girl. He is now she. I'm unclear on how far along the transition was, but there is photographic evidence of her living as a woman, and Facebook is clear and open about the hormone therapy she was on, which I'm sure has been cut off. But they put her in a men's jail in South Carolina, I think. That can't be a good time. He grew up in California. I can only imagine his life story after high school, but in high school, he was a loser because he dressed like a slob and often smelled. Had no friends, did poorly in class and couldn't do a single push-up in PE. As far as I know, the regular oppressors at school didn't even bother with him. Everybody basically just kept their distance. Story 19. My high school had a graduating class at about 100, and nearly half were already parents by the time we graduated, including the night school kids. I think only maybe 5 of us have degrees. The hard substance users are gone, multiple people ending it all from the kids who were already really struggling with mental health. and the class president is a depression prevention advocate that uses basketball camps to teach kids. I was probably the weird kid. I was in a cult throughout high school. I got out, was homeless for a bit, went to college, moved 12 hours away, and have a beautiful family. You were in a what in high school? Story 20. Honestly, passed away. Ended it all. A good few years ago now. Not really sure what the deal was or where life took him, but heard on the grapevine that he'd ended it all. A small part of me feels guilty about whether any of us could have done more to help him, but it was hard work, hard to like, generally unpleasant, and made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with any of us outside of the government-mandated hours with which he had to attend school with us. Maybe there was more to his life than we ever knew. There usually is, but it wasn't the school loser from lack of the rest of us trying to help him. There just came a point where even the most determined and patient gave up. You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. Story 21. I had the worst grades and dropped out right before I turned 16. Started smoking grass at 14, one of the first to do so in high school, which earned me the mostly undeserved reputation as a user. I did try other stuff but never got hooked on anything. I was from a single-parent, lower-middle-class family. Mother's job transferred states when I was 16 and kind of allowed me to reset my life. Still struggled to find my way early on, but had an epiphany at 21 and decided to make a change. Went to community college and then university, studying physics. Graduated at 26 with a BS in physics. I'm 37 now, a senior engineer in the semiconductor industry, happily married to a woman I started dating back when I was 20 and floating through life. We just had our second kid and are firmly upper middle class. I think everyone would be shocked, but I only talked to maybe 3 people I went to high school with. I ended up back in my home city because, well, it's in Silicon Valley and the jobs are here, but I have run into a small handful of people I knew and I pretended I didn't see half of them. Story 22. She worked at the YMCA for a little while after high school. Now she works for a consulting culty company that specializes in management strategies or something like that. I tried to understand what the company does, but honestly sounds like a scam company, which wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Almost 30, still never had a boyfriend or any type of romantic partner, living in the same town we grew up in, with her Facebook page just videos that she tagged her parents in. She doesn't hang out with anyone that I can see, friends or family-wise, except her parents. Everyone in her high school friend group scattered as soon as high school was over to get as far away from the town as quickly as they could and start their lives fresh, which she never launched. Story 23. He got a job with Apple just out of high school. They paid for his college. To be fair, he was a really great guy. He was just so smart that he didn't know how to interact with people. My dad was that kind of person, so I knew how to talk to him. Not many people could tolerate him, though, which is understandable. On the outside, he was a pretentious know-it-all who never turned down an opportunity to tell someone they were wrong. Inside, though, he truly thought he was engaging with people in conversation. He was genuinely confused that people hated him. He remembered tiny details about everyone and would try to bring it up in conversation, and everyone thought that was creepy and weird. He just really cared and paid attention. Colin, if you ever see this, Alex thought you were a great person and I really hope life is treating you well. Story 24. Living right next door to me. Alcoholic, mid-50s, trashy wife with trashy kids. The trash flies into our yard and the house is never maintained. Christmas lights are still up. Lots of cars in the driveway. Hundreds of other alcoholic losers from high school telling him how great he is via Facebook. I changed my Wi-Fi code to loser's address, Clampets. It's a decent neighborhood, but they stick out like, well, a couple of middle-aged drinkers. His wife had cancer and she couldn't afford to take 2 months off during radiation treatment because he couldn't hold down the fort for 2 months without breaking into his beer money, or car payments. All of the cars are new. He also flexed on my 75-year-old mother, raised his voice, chest puffed up. Like, really, dude? Yeah, he was a loser then and he's a loser now. But he has cars and beer. Can't wait for him to get popped for a DUI. He might actually have to grow the heck up. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 25. There was a super unpopular kid from a poor family in high school. He was a try-hard-to-impress people and a class clown, but all it did was alienate him further. People picked on him for being poor. They would invite him to non-existent parties and he'd show up to some random person's house and the homeowner would be like, "Who the heck are you?" No one liked him and he never did himself in favors with his attitude and demeanor. After high school, he was useless for a few years. Never went to college, kept his same persona. I lost track of him and did not know what he was up to these days. Apparently he said F this place and moved to Wisconsin, of all places. Worked in the canning factory for years, kept his head down, did his job, went back to school, got some promotions, moved to a corporate office in Chicago. is apparently now a millionaire, mostly from YOLOing his retirement into GameStop. No, I'm kidding. He actually told me he lost half his retirement doing that and isn't a millionaire yet. We reconnected when I posted on social media that I was visiting family in Chicago. He sent me a DM saying he lived downtown and I should hit him up while in town. I was one of the few who didn't pick on him, so we had an evening out in the town getting intoxicated, talking crap about all the super popular kids at school who turned into actual losers decades later. Story 26. I had a pretty large class, so it's hard to say he was the biggest loser. But he was always the fat kid in our class and made his identity about smoking grass from about 8th or ninth grade on. He also spent almost every waking free moment playing Xbox. He went to college for about half a semester, dropped out, delivered pizzas for a few years, got into harder substances and got skinny because of it. He has since gained the weight back and stops doing the hard stuff. He's currently in his mid-30s, lives in his mother's basement, plays Xbox constantly, and works as a person that receives recyclables at a recycling center part-time. Story 27. We had a new starter at our school in year 9. My friend and I tried to say hello and make them feel welcome, but got a response of, "I don't need any friends." Okay, cool. That's your prerogative. They went and hung out with the anime kids in the library and were a real a-hole for the rest of school. I'm not against anime or hanging out in a library at all, but they were very gatekeepery in their attitude and looked down on me for reading Western comics. Anyway, fast forward 10 years later, and they've put up a link on social media for GoFundMe to buy themselves a new gaming computer, fund a holiday for themselves and their parents, and to pay for their gender transition. Apparently, depression has made it impossible to get a job, even though the country where I live makes access to mental health service quite accessible to those on welfare, and they haven't done anything to feminize their appearance. They just seem to be using mental health and gender dysmorphia to get out of actually contributing to society. Story 28. He passed away from substance misuse a while ago. I saw him once in college. He rolled into town with a softball-sized ball of stuff and a nitrous tank. I asked him what his plans were, and he said he was going to drive to Colorado to get something else. We weren't friends, but he knew someone I knew that was staying with me, so he and his friends all showed up at my place and didn't leave for like 2 days. He heard he got into substances after I saw him, but had got clean. He was dating a girl with a kid and seemed to be doing well. He went to hang out with old friends, and I basically watched his entire passing play out over social media. From his post about seeing old friends to his girlfriend's panic messages for anyone that knew him to tell him to call her, to his mom's eventual post that he had passed. It was all very messed up. The guy just never really stood a chance. There was another kid that dropped out to go to Votech. It wasn't really done in my town of doctors and lawyers where everyone was expected to go to college. He got into trouble when he and his friends lit golf carts on fire at the local country club, and the EPA got called because of the acid that leaked into the soil. But I saw him at a bar after that, and he was working as a mechanic, complete with his dirty overalls and hands. I think he actually bought me a beer, but I was never a schmuck to him, so I think that's why. Story 29. Well, I'm doing pretty good, actually. I have a nice house, a wife, and 2 fantastic kids, both super smart and doing quite well. Me, I have an incredible job. Could pay more, but work-life balance is perfect. I get to travel a little bit, play a lot of golf, and make a yearly pilgrimage to Scotland and one other to another local with a group of golf buddies. Wife and I are looking at retiring a little early in southern Europe somewhere, looking at Italy, Spain, or France along the Mediterranean. But yeah, overall, I was a loser in high school. Technically graduated with like a 2.3 or something. They gave us our diplomas in the gym after the ceremony. The assistant principal pulled me aside and gave me mine out of the line. Told me I was not allowed back on school property or I would be charged with trespassing. They just wanted me gone. Not proud of that at all. Funny thing is, my wife was student council, smart, all that jazz. We met the summer after high school. Been married for 28 years this year. We went to homecoming the next year and that assistant principal was appalled that we were dating. She's currently floating across the pool from me nearly 30 years later. I'm doing pretty well. Story 30. He recently friended me on Facebook after liking all of my photos and public posts. Was using an obviously fake name, avatar profile pic, and 0 content on his page. We were both part of the outsiders at school, so I was willing to give him a little time and space. He was all paranoid about needing to protect his privacy, but wouldn't say why. Said something outrageously offensive about my girlfriend and claimed he was allowed to say it because of his genuine beliefs that I needed to respect. Unfriended and blocked him instantly and then posted on my page about how someone from my past was floating around deep undercover and that it would be unsafe for queer folk to friend. A friend from my school days got in touch and she had the tea without even me asking. He's been in prison 2 or 3 times for mistreatment. Deep undercover because he was in protection while in prison and could be ended if people find out who he really is. Apparently, his mother was an accomplice and also did time. Oh, and he's homophobic on top of all that. Yes, we did go to a religious school. Pentecostal happy clappers who don't care what your sins are as long as you put your 10 to 20% tithe in the bowl and keep everyone else's secrets. And we could all safely guess he's still attending one of those churches and probably teaching Sunday school. Story 31. I dropped out of high school at 16 due to pestering and lack of interest. I went into a welder helper job. Found out I liked working with my hands and tinkering, which led to my GED, then associates in industrial maintenance. 9 years after that, I'm going back from a bachelor's of computer engineering. I'm a homeowner. Found love, and I'm happy with my life. Sometimes you have to step into the life that's sitting in front of you rather than planning for one that you want to. Story 32. Define loser. The kid that failed 11th grade after barely making it for years and had to transfer schools? Honestly, I don't know. In hindsight, he was very obviously struggling with his mental health at the time, so I really hope he got the help he needed and managed to find his way in life. The unpopular kid that no one wanted anything to do with? That was me. I'm doing fine. Went to uni, discovered I was more likable than I thought, and had just been with the wrong crowd the whole time. Got an undergraduate degree in law, went abroad for a master's. Got proof that I am in fact a bisexual. Got really into rock and metal and started traveling all over Europe to see my favorite bands. Back in school, I always had a boring good girl rap. I wonder what my classmates would think if they saw me now. Story 33. I was one of the losers from 8th to 10th grade. I don't know what happened after that, but I gained popularity in 11th grade, but after high school, I dropped out of college and started working full-time at AutoZone. I learned how to play chess and got into the top 1% of all players on chess.com. I would stream and make YouTube videos in my apartment when I wasn't at work. I got a girlfriend and moved 3 states away where I continued and even picked production up on the streaming and YouTube videos. I played in several OTB tournaments and joined a local chess club. Since March this year, I've almost completely cut out the chess and now I play golf and work at a car dealership in the parts department. Every day on my lunch break, I go to the driving range and I'll play a round or two on the weekends. I'm still trying to find that niche that I excel at. Story 34. He had clearly undiagnosed and was now remembering it. Came from a very wealthy and very permissive family. I was incredibly spoiled. One time I got a punishment for being stupid. We all had to dig holes and plant trees. He refused, and his parents straight up sent 2 laborers to dig his holes. Wild. They seemed afraid of him. Anyway, the boy passed away. He got into grass a decade ago and was found in a car. The other one, also very wealthy and very spoiled, recently passed away from alcoholism. He brought something harmful to school and threatened people. Didn't get expelled because his parents paid the teachers off and donated a school bus or some crap. He was 45. The last one is also gone. Also from an incredibly wealthy family, one of the richest ones. When he was 16, he crashed his father's red Mercedes-Benz. It was brand new and ended his friend. You'd think he changed, but he just got worse and worse, and then he passed away from alcoholism a few years ago. Dumb people go away young. I feel terrible for their families. Story 35. Depends on which loser you're talking about and how you define loser. There was this guy from my high school. We were good friends. He was also the epitome of nerdy and uncool. I played Pokemon and video games and Yu-Gi-Oh! I was also extremely overweight. People also found him abrasive and weird, and he wasn't well-liked. I remember in sophomore year, he created a fake girlfriend on Facebook to troll people. That's how cringe this guy was. I remember talking some sense to him, saying that people are going to think he's more weird now. He also made a pact with a couple of other guys to lose their V-card, but it went nowhere. Most girls thought he was really weird. Anyway, he did a massive 180 change in college. In college, he started an intense workout regimen and lost a lot of weight. He joined a frat and started partying a lot and became an ultimate stereotypical left boy. He was a completely different person than he was in high school. This is the same guy who was a major loser in high school. Fast forward today, they got this random girl pregnant and she wanted to keep the baby and he wanted to be involved in this child's life. So they had a quick wedding and they ended up staying together for the sake of the child. He stepped up, quit his partying, got a real job, and started taking care of the child. Anyway, that's where the loser of my high school ended up. He went from being a nerdy, awkward loser in high school to a frat boy party animal in college to getting a girl pregnant and then stepping up and taking responsibility for his kid. I can respect that. Story 36. Western European experience. I was not popular until I was 14. Then my class got a major reshuffle and I ended up in the popular crowd, which in my school were the metal kids who also played RPGs. I went into education, a respectable, well-paying career in my country. 3 guys I went to school with had selection training with professional football. For U.S. readers, soccer teams. Only one made it. The one who made it is wealthy now, obviously. The second one got a regular job. The last one started taking substances and has been in and out of prison. Story 37. The ones I know are where I expected them to be. Bouncing from one construction job to another. Together by common law with a bad boy-loving woman that started adulthood with an unplanned early pregnancy. I know they're still living in the area, or at least alive by the traffic that goes past friends' places en route to the local dealers in the neighborhood. Sure, it seems the lifestyle they prefer, and I'm only guessing. At least one of them would likely have a tattoo that reads, "Live hard, pass away young." That said, I know far more people from the popular crowd, being the jock or cheerleader types who've ended up gone from coding. So I'm not keen on judging those who weren't as driven to succeed when they were teens. Story 38. I don't think he ever made it out of the first few weeks of freshman year of high school. He tried 4 times but got suspended and eventually kicked out for good after the fourth try. We had briefly been friends in 6th grade. I was definitely going through a weird phase where I was definitely a schmuck 12 years ago. This kid was clearly crazy, so I would suggest he do something and then he would. After a few weeks, though, I realized I was being more of a schmuck than your typical 12-year-old and that this kid was genuinely crazy and was going to end up getting in serious trouble, so I stopped hanging out with him. I remember they had us go to peer mediation and I was asked why I suddenly stopped talking to him, and I straight up said, "This is all the crap he has done and I just feel like he's an oppressor and that isn't who I want to be." And the mediators were just like, "Oh." So now it's the first week of 9th grade, high school, and someone is going around the school pooping in weird places. Garbage cans, sinks, on the floor in front of toilets. People christen the culprit the poop bandit. By the second or third week, they figured out it was this kid, and he was suspended for the year. Can't remember what happened sophomore year. I just know he was gone before the end of the first month. I know junior year he brought something he shouldn't have to school and got kicked out for the rest of the year for that reason. I can't remember what happened when I was a senior, but he got kicked out of his fourth try at freshman year again. Towards the end of my senior year, I had gym class first period, and we had to take a bus to an offsite location about a mile away for the unit we were doing. It was at an old school, still owned by the district. So we get to the location around 8:15 a.m., and this guy's standing just off the property smoking cigarettes by himself. I remember we were all like, "Bro, why the heck is this dude hanging out at a school so early in the morning after getting kicked out of school 4 times? He clearly doesn't want to be here. It makes no sense." That was the last time I ever saw him in person. A freshman or sophomore year of college, I saw a news article from back home about this guy getting intoxicated and then driving to a church and busting all the windows out. I don't know what demons this guy had or where he is now, but he had been in jail. Story 39. Three-way tie, I think. The guy who never did his work and screwed around all the time is a machine learning developer in Silicon Valley. He has his own Wikipedia page and found me on LinkedIn. He thanked me for letting him copy my homework. The guy who slept through class every day and barely graduated works for the state fish and wildlife department as some type of game warden. The guy who thought he was better than everyone else so hardly showed up to school is fixing computers with a side hustle as a crypto trader. I get mass messages from him almost 20 years later to invest in whatever garbage coin is promoting that month. Story 40. I'm doing great. I was the school target, got jumped and harmed by the other girls in school constantly. Now I'm in another province. I have a wonderful fiance. We've got a house together, planning a family. I've traveled. I have regular adventures, doing fun activities and going places. And I have truly genuine and kind friends. I get a lot of kids from school adding me to FB now. They're still in the little 500-person town and they're still gossiping over ridiculous stuff. It's kind of mind-blowing to see that 20-plus years can pass and they're still squabbling over the same stuff. They've got no concept of the larger world around them and who such and such is dating is world-ending news for them. I'm so glad I got out. Story 41. I'm a healthcare provider for homeless vets. I'm in my late 40s, and a few months ago, I had a vet come in seeking assistance. I've been doing a lot to help him. He doesn't remember me, but I remember him from high school. We hung out a few times. I have vivid memories of my mom objecting to us hanging out. She's gotten a kick out of being right in that call. His life took a lot of unfortunate turns, and it's weird hearing about his younger years from this perspective. Sharing all the cruelty he was going through when he was a teen, how he was depressed. He doesn't know that I know him from high school, and now it's too late to drop that on him, and so I'll have to just play dumb if he realizes we may have been in the same small town of 2,000 people around the same time. How does he not know? Story 42. This situation is really heartbreaking. She has 3 young daughters. The oldest is in her biological child, seemingly from her partner's unfaithfulness. She then had 2 biological children with him. She's had a very difficult past with legal issues and instability. She worked incredibly hard, walking from their apartment to her job every day, even up until she gave birth. I wasn't a close friend, but I knew her. I was actually pretty close with her partner growing up. We provided their entire Christmas last year, buying everything. They acted a bit unusual. They never sent photos of the kids on Christmas morning. It wasn't required, but I personally would have. Cheated on her and left her and the children a few months ago. She became homeless, and her children were staying with various family members to avoid being taken into care. When I talked to her and offered advice on moving forward, her responses were very strange. I think she may have some underlying challenges that I hadn't fully recognized before. And when he cheated and left, they were living in a hotel and it was with someone staying in the room across the hall. So she was in a hotel with a newborn and two other children, while her partner or father of her children was living right across the hall. It broke my heart. I really hope she can recover and rebuild her life. That schmuck should end himself. Story 43. There was a kid in my junior year who constantly got in trouble. Bad grades, total I don't give a crap attitude. A few friends were also on the same track as he was. He was a loser. I, on the other hand, got good grades and kept my nose clean through high school, did the AP class route, graduated from a great college, got into a great law school, was overall on track to have a successful career and see the fruits of all my hard work pay off. Imagine my shock when I ran into him one day in law school. It was a year behind me. How? How? I got this because I worked hard, right? This is how the world works, right? I was rethinking every one of my life choices because how did we end up at the same place? Imagine my more shock when I looked him up years later and saw he passed away in a freak car accident. It's all a weird fever dream at this point. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.